Joining us as she does on a Thursday is New South Wales Liberal Senator Fierravanti-Wells. Connie, good morning.
Good morning, Stephen.
A major announcement by the Prime Minister this morning. That is a very big turnaround from where our defence capabilities have been in recent times.
Stephen, it's happening obviously as we go to air, but I note though that submarines have been the subject of much scrutiny by me and other senators at estimates. I think the concerns about the French connection, capability gaps and cost escalation as a consequence of failure to buy off the shelf have been front of mind. So this announcement, I think, will be welcomed by many.
And you, of course, come from a naval family, so I guess it'll be a big talking point in your household today.
Yes, I'm sure it will be.
Indeed. Now, New South Wales hospitality venues are calling for more clarity as they prepare to become the gatekeepers against unvaccinated staff and customers. Look, I have real concerns about this. We're talking about when we get... there's confusion as to what's going to happen between 70% vaccination rates and 80% vaccination rates. Here in the ACT, our Chief Minister is prevaricating about whether or not things are going to change when the ACT hits those rates as opposed to the rest of the country. But from a legal perspective, and you are a lawyer by trade, is there an issue here with businesses discriminating against unvaccinated people? Are businesses going to be opening themselves up to legal challenges or forced into it by governments?
Stephen, it is a legal quagmire, and navigating the constitutional competencies of both the Commonwealth and the state and territories will be a challenge. It seems and it would appear that the states have the power to both mandate vaccination and introduce vaccination passports. In effect, it would be an extension of the requirements that we've seen for QR coding and the like. But at the Commonwealth level, I think the situation is perhaps not as clear. And of course, there's also the complication of movement between the states and the Section 92 of the Constitution. Now, these are issues that have not been canvassed by the courts as yet. But I think, Stephen, ultimately, though, it will be the political constraints that will likely be more relevant than the constitutional ones. And of course, it doesn't surprise me to see this week Boris Johnson appearing to back down from implementing COVID passports in the UK.
The biggest concern I have here is the impost on small businesses who have taken a massive financial hit over the last 18 months, and they're now expected to turn customers away if they're not vaccinated, but more importantly, put systems in place where they can actually be the de facto vaccination cops. You're picturing I'm picturing where you go in to buy a cappuccino and the girl behind the counter says $4.50, thanks, but prove you're vaccinated before I can give you your coffee. I mean, how are businesses supposed to police this kind of rubbish?
Well, Stephen, that is a very good point. And of course, at the federal level, there's been a maintenance of the position set out in the statement of National Cabinet back on the 6th of August. And that is that Australia's policy remains that vaccinations should be voluntary and free, but at the same time saying that business have the legal obligation to keep their workplaces safe and to eliminate or minimise, as far as reasonably practicable, the risk of exposure to COVID. And then this point was made that in the absence of a state or territory public health order or a requirement in an employment contract or industrial instrument, an employer can only mandate that an employee be vaccinated through a lawful and reasonable direction. Now, I go back to the point I made earlier. This is a legal quagmire, and whilst there have been attempts to try and assist and provide advice through Fair Work and other entities, the reality remains that this is a legal quagmire. And of course, now we're starting to see legal cases emerge and stories about legal cases that are being brought. And I think that that's only going to add even more to the complications.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Now, as you know, I'm very familiar with the seat of Fowler in Western Sydney. You're the government's duty senator for South Western Sydney. Of course, your Labor Senate colleague, Christina Keneally, as a young girl growing up in Toledo, always dreamed of serving the good people of Fowler.
Well, how Orwellian, we're all equal, but some are more equal than others.
Indeed.
Yes, with my office in southwestern Sydney in Fairfield, and assuming I'm selected to recontest a Senate position on the New South Wales ticket, I can assure you I'm looking forward to continuing my political stoushing with Keneally in southwestern Sydney. I mean, she certainly has sought the headlines in areas such as trying to brand Conservatives as hard right and extreme right wing, but she doesn't know her history. I've tried to repeatedly, Stephen, educate her on this, but in the end, she has a history. Her history is not her forte. History is not her forte, and she's very much a show pony of little substance, and I think that it was quite adequately articulated in The Australian this week by Troy Bramson when he outlined a history of failed political ventures, and Bennelong and her premiership being amongst her most obvious.
Now, you and I both come from an Italian background. Our parents were migrants. Anthony Albanese, obviously from an Italian background too. What did you think of his attempts to draw a comparison between our, say, migrant success stories and that of Christina Keneally?
Well, a valiant attempt, but I don't think he quite succeeded. I mean, Stephen, our parliaments are not reflective of the diversity of contemporary Australia. That's the issue. And that's why in New South Wales, I and others fought hard for plebiscites in broadening the membership base. Candidates will be chosen that are more reflective of the community they represent. And by all accounts, Miss Tu Lee reflects that diversity. And I think that the parachuting of Keneally into Fowler reflects the contempt that factional leaders have for grassroots representation. Given my presence in the area, I know that there are people who are interested in running for the seats in the area, and I'm pleased to say that, like me, potential contenders are from diverse backgrounds, and I'm sure that the Liberal branches in the area with plebiscites will choose candidates that properly reflect the diversity of the area, and most especially the seat of Fowler.
It's going to be an interesting election, that's for sure, whenever it happens. Connie, good to talk to you. We'll catch up next week.
Thanks very much, Stephen.
All the best. New South Wales Liberal Senator Concetta Fierravanti-Wells, 16